Hey everybody, welcome back to Crunchy Roulette. I'm Lotto,
And I am Nordy.
and we've got another fun anime for you today, brought to us by the random roulette god. Why don't you kick us off with the synopsis there?
Well, this time we're watching and reviewing the first three episodes of Gosick. This is a mystery anime, so we're having a good time swerving around with different styles. I'm happy about
Yeah, I'm
that.
excited about this one.
So Gosick, synopsis reads as, in this 1920s tale of dark intrigue and romance, Japanese exchange student Kazuo Kujo strikes up a fast but uneasy friendship with the doll-like genius Victorique. Both outcasts, Victorique and Kujo explore the unsolved mysteries at their school. As they begin taking on more cases, a sinister plot begins to unfold in the shadows around them, with 2 seasons and 48 episodes.
48. I didn't even see that. That's cool.
Yeah.
You're getting better at this synopsis thing, you know? I wasn't convinced you could
Ah,
read
thank you.
until we started doing this. So I will point out one thing, and you can call her Victorique if you want. I think Cujo in the anime was pronouncing it Victorica, almost like Victoria. So I
No, he did like a Victorique guy.
Victorica. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, 'cause I was rewatching it this morning because when I read the synopsis, I was like, that's not how it sounded. And he just like made it even more complicated than Victorique already is.
Oh, okay, got it. So it was all wrong on every part of it. I heard it wrong. He
Exactly,
said it wrong.
exactly,
It was spelled wrong. It made it hard for everybody. All right. Well,
exactly.
I think I've spent the last 2 days calling it Victorica. So I don't know how to break out of it at this point.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah, so you kind of hinted at it right before the synopsis, but this is sort of a mystery thriller type of anime, right?
Yeah, it's a mystery. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's too much of a thriller. I mean, there's definitely more like dangerous aspects to, compared to the other shows that we were watching.
Sure.
This one takes on a much more serious tone. Well, the first three episodes were much more cartoony, I would say, even though it's all cartoons. Uh,
Facts.
yeah.
Yeah, I think after the intro song, they dive into the very first scene of episode one, which I won't get into just yet, but it did start out with like a bit of a bloody mess, and then the intro song itself that kicked in after was happy and exciting. It
Yeah,
was it was a I was
totally.
not sure what to expect. Um,
I know that was just like an over the top juxtaposition of just like, killing rabbits, blood going everywhere, and then it's like, all right, let's go, happy time, woo! Look at all these crazy characters and bright colors.
Yeah, which
But
didn't
but
exactly
then
set
like
the tone in a perfect way, kind of leading to it, but
no,
it
well,
did an okay job, I think.
yeah, yeah. Nah, I mean, it's actually a pretty popular song. I noticed there's a lot of covers on YouTube of the intro
Oh,
song.
really? That's cool. I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
yeah.
Maybe is it like a well-known pop artist or something?
Well, not like well known in the anime community. I'd say well known because Amelie, or Lee and Lee, whichever name she goes by nowadays, she has her English version on it, which
Oh, okay.
she always does a good job.
Look at you coming in with the facts.
Usually, I'm not good at those. Every once
Best
in a
I can
while, it works.
provide for you is that the name Gosick is a play on the word Gothic, but like and if you would pronounce the word Gothic
Oh,
in sort of Japanese, it's Gosick, Gothic, yeah.
got it.
So it's but obviously
Right.
the sick is a part of the element of like the tone of the anime, I guess. But yeah, so it's the whole name is a play on Gothic on and the tone of the
Thank
anime.
you. I was wondering about that. I didn't wonder enough to really like look it up, but I did wonder like it's a weird freaking name.
Well, yeah, I spent two
Like,
minutes on Wiki. Don't give me too much credit.
the wiki page that I edited.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. These we trust but verify. That's what we'll do here.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you had heard of this anime a little bit. I actually recognized the name when we picked it at random, but name alone. So I think it kind of stayed
Yeah.
true to our random side. Had
Well, it's like I'm always keeping an eye on on the Crunchyroll list. So, I mean, now seeing that it has 48 episodes, I can understand that I've seen it on the now updated 48 times. That it's just enough of a name that it would stick out for
Yeah,
me.
I think that's how I portrayed it too. Like I had seen
Yeah.
this title or cover somewhere, but knew nothing about it. So based on that, any preconceptions going into this? Any expectations?
Like before, watching anything, first the name was just like part of the turnoff for me, so to say, as to why I never like ran an episode of the first place. Like the name was just so weird. I was like, I don't give a shit. I have no idea what that means, so I'm not gonna care. And it just had two children on the front, just a young girl with long blonde hair, and then
Sure.
and the first scene definitely like blew the preconception I had of nothing interesting going on right out the window.
Agreed. Yeah, that I
Yeah.
would say the first 30 seconds, there's wolves chasing hares and some kind of witch or fortune teller we learn doing a little bit of something, then cue to intro song, and
Yeah.
then so episode spoiler alert by a we're always late with the spoiler alerts. Just FYI,
Yeah.
we Nordy did mention we are going to be going over the first three episodes here. We haven't completed it as usual, but anybody interested in still seeing this, just be forewarned that we may go through basically the whole story of the first three episodes. Why don't you walk us through the first episode, first impressions, and all that good stuff?
So the first episode, like, put several things forward that were just like never brought up again. And it was just so interesting. And maybe they will at some point down the road, in among the other 45 episodes that
Uh-huh.
remain. But like, I forgot his name already. Was it
Cujo.
Kazuya? Yeah. Yeah, Kazuya Kujo. He's like an outcast just because he was Japanese in a foreign land, so he had like dark hair and dark eyes, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, he's the Grim Reaper!" And
Yeah, his nickname was the Black Reaper.
yeah, like Black Death, or so they're like, "Oh, his soul is probably as black as his looks," and everybody stay away from him. So that initially made me think that there's actually going to be more to it than just like racism. Like he actually did something to get that name beyond just having like typical Japanese hair and eyes.
Sure.
So I was waiting for something that to happen, either later in the first episode or in the next two, and nothing ever did.
Well, I think the characterization of Cujo and the nickname the Black Reaper was sort of
Yeah.
a setup or a stepping stone into like the whole series, right? Because the Black Reaper, the name given to him, was based off of an urban legend they mentioned.
Uh-huh.
And then the teacher, Miss Cecile, as I wrote down here,
Who made him go back and meet Victorique?
yeah, yeah, her whole advice to him was like, "Hey, go make some friends."
Right.
And sends him on off to the library to sort of learn more about urban legends, specifically to have something to talk to other people about.
Yeah.
Sound advice? Who knows?
Yeah. Hey, you call me the Grim Reaper. Want to talk about a ghost story?
Yeah, I don't know where the teacher's mindset was, but it
Yeah.
all kind of comes together. He does at least take the advice of the teacher. He goes to the library, starts reading through the book, and reads up on some of the urban legends, the ghost stories, and things.
Yeah, mystical creatures and all that.
Yeah.
And does some subtle foreshadowing of the mystery that they're going to go into without making it too blatant. So
Yep. Yep.
and then sees the golden hair and climbs up the tallest library in the world to go find Victorique.
Highly motivated child, this Cujo, to look at a
Yeah.
little bit of shining light at the top of like what looks like a 10-story tower and decides, hey, I've got to climb all these stairs. I mean, there's really no other option here. I have to go see the light.
And not just like climb the stairs, but he was like running up the
He
stairs.
he was booking it up those stairs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it worked out. Obviously, I don't think the anime would have gone anywhere had he not gone up the stairs. So
Yeah.
he meet Victory, as we're going to call her. for the first time.
What's interesting there is again, like they introduced a thing that they don't get to again. Like she's just like, oh, the wellspring of knowledge told me that you were coming, or wellspring of wisdom, I think it was. Basically, let her predict the future. That here's the black-haired boy that comes in the spring is going to be her
Yeah.
friend. And then, like throughout the rest of that episode and the next two episode, she never calls upon the powers of the wellspring of wisdom.
Well, not in the same way, I don't think. I think that what ends up happening is she uses the powers not so much as fortune telling, I guess, is probably the better way to put it for this one, kind of on theme. But she uses what is probably best described as like Sherlock Holmes' mental palace
Hmm.
in piecing together things that are going to happen based on the facts that are in front of her. They hint at it in that first episode, and then she kind of uses it a little bit later to solve the mysteries and such.
Well, she used it again in that same episode when, the cop come with the gigantic pompadour.
Inspector Greville Bloy.
Yeah. Yeah, he comes in via elevator in the back, not on the stairs like a chump, and has a very flourishing entrance to be a counter to the Gothic motif that has been, the setting so far.
Yeah,
Um,
he's quite the character.
and he's like, yeah, yeah. And he like gives all the pieces of evidence and then says, here's my conclusion, which is obviously going to be wrong in the first
Hmm.
place. And then she's like, oh, all the pieces of chaos are in place. And then it does this whole animation of like stuff like coming together into her eye to like, come up with the answer. It leads to, Kazuya, when he, like the inspector makes the papers, Kazuya makes a big deal to the inspector of like, you didn't give any credit to Victorique and taking all the credit for yourself.
Yeah.
Basically, that first mystery has to do with the fortune teller being killed, and they get to the daughter of the fortune teller rewards the inspector with the family yacht to, compensate him for solving the case. And then the inspector's like, hey, okay, you're not going to get any money from this, but I'll let you two kids, come and play on the yacht, basically.
Consolation prize. Come hang out on my boat.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it all kind of comes together. They actually to plan to go out on a trip, and we learn that Victory doesn't actually get out much. She very clearly, by the questions she has about the town and the people and the different stores and things, you learn very
Hmm.
quickly that this is a girl who is been very sheltered but very intelligent. She understands most things, but I think the basics of the world still elude her. But they made it out to the boat.
Right. They make it out to the boat, and to your point, like she just knows nothing about the world because she hasn't experienced it because who knows how long she's been in that tower.
Right.
And then on the boat, they find an invitation to the fortune teller, to go somewhere else. And Victorique is like, "Hey, we should go to this. This sounds even more interesting than this little yacht." And that leads to episode two is following the invitation to a bigger boat with some rich people on it.
Yes, I did laugh at that. Well, I thought it was funny that the whole adventure towards the end of that first episode was, all right, we're gonna go on a boat. Oh shit, we're no boat. Canceled. Hey, look, a bigger boat.
Yeah.
Episode 2, bigger boat.
And episode two, is where the mystery really begins. Yeah, where they have like an actual multi-episode mystery. So this is why watching the first three episodes was perfect because all three like really lead into each
Yeah, they
other.
all tie together.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's take one small step back here. So I think you did mention that they found a letter on the first boat, correct?
Yeah, that's how they knew about the larger boat in the first place.
Yeah, so there was an invitation, and we learn actually at that moment that the invitation was meant for the fortune teller that was killed that Victorix helped solve the murder for in
Right,
in the earlier part of the episode. So it
right.
kind of tied together, and it was really interesting
Yeah.
to sort of see one step into the next. But yeah, here's a much bigger investigation that was needed, and they had to see it through.
right, and understanding like Victorique wanted to see more like a deeper story as to why the fortune teller was murdered,
Yeah.
rather than it just like it was too meticulous for it to be a crime of passion. So what are the bigger players in this and what all is happening?
Yeah, which was made for obviously a really entertaining anime, but it all kind of tied together. There was a lot of mixed things that they threw in that they never, like you said, they never really addressed. But at least as far as their goal with the main storyline and solving the mystery, they kind of kept in line with what they wanted to do.
Well, and it was interesting in like the beginning of the second episode, there's that dinner and then they all get drugged because like I guess every single bit of food was drugged.
Yep.
Then they all wake up in a room and Victorique is like whoever the new person, because there was like one more person than was at dinner, and she's like, "Oh, whoever's new in the room, that's the culprit." So they give away like the culprit in the first like minute or 2 minutes of the show, and it's kind of funny.
Yeah, but you don't quite know who it's going to be. You kind of suspect. It's not like the plain looking characters.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is too, though, it's like they show the dinner scene, even though they're not showing anybody's face, you can still see all their outfits. So like everyone was in a black tux except for the blonde guy and then the woman in the red dress.
Right.
And if you're really paying attention, which, I rewatched the first episode, or sorry, the second episode, just for that scene, to see that, yeah, they don't show a woman in the red dress whatever whatsoever during the dinner.
Oh, really?
So
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
so it's
Okay.
like if someone paid better attention than I did on the first
Uh-huh.
runaround, then they'd know right then and there, like, oh, it's the woman, you know.
It's very interesting. So I went back and I did watch the first three episodes a couple times, and I don't know that I paid too close attention. Granted, it was a little late when I watched it, so I wasn't 100% all there. But yeah, that's very
It's
interesting.
like falling asleep. You're like, I
Yeah, I'm
gotta get
half
these
asleep.
details. Ah.
But yeah, it's interesting that they made it a point to where like maybe on the first walkthrough or watch through, you are just ingrained in the story and you're not really trying to pay attention to every little detail. But then once you really
Right.
know the answer to, the mysteries that they're putting together, you go back and watch it again and you see little details that you missed the first time. I didn't realize
Yeah.
that they did that. That's really cool. Maybe I'll have to go back and see again. Well, maybe I'll continue watching it and they'll do it again.
Yeah, they in that dinner scene they showed so you could see like the sleeves and a little bit of the torso of each
Hmm.
person. So you saw like all the black suits, one white suit, but no red dress
Uh,
and no bare arms.
so they get drugged. They all wake up in this
Yeah,
mystery room. They don't know where they are, and they've got Victory says, "Hey, there's definitely someone here that wasn't at dinner." And you're welcomed sort of with a group of people who are trying to figure out what's going on, and they kind of hint at something that the group of old men say something about like the box, if I'm not mistaken.
the rabbit and the hounds.
Yeah, the rabbit and the hounds, and I know they talked about the box, and because the box referred to the boat, but they did use a bunch of those key words, like whispers while they were in the room, and you don't really get all of the details. You don't really know what that means in that part of the episode. It's later on you kind of get context, but it's clear that people are scared and there's a threat at hand, and then panic ensues when they kind of figure out somebody set them up and they're trying to kill them all.
Right. Yeah, a few traps get sprung and kills one person.
And then eventually the doors unlock. They attempt to escape. People are dying, and they make it out of the room at the very least, right?
Yeah, they all after one person gets killed trying open when they open the door, they run out and get outside to find like it's a big old storm going on.
Yeah.
And basically there's, four or five older guys, a younger guy in the white suit, the woman in the red dress, and then Victorique and Kazuya. So all but one of the old guys gets into a life raft and like uses that to get out of the boat completely, and immediately it gets destroyed. uh, so most of the old guys die. Sea swallows them up. no two ways around that. No more boat traps. It wasn't like a trap or a booby trap life raft. It was just like big wave dead.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It almost felt like the writers said, we have way too many characters here and we only have 25 minutes. We're gonna have to eliminate half of these people in the first 5 minutes. And so they did. They put them all on a
Exactly.
life raft, a lifeboat. Big wave takes them, and then you're left with essentially like the main group. And then they actually run back looking for the room. They do a little bit of an introduction here. So we've got Ned Baxter, who is the Englishman, who
In the
in
white
the
suit.
white suit. We learned we have Maurice, who is one of the surviving old men.
Yeah.
And he goes into a little more detail, but we'll circle back on that. But he
Yeah.
talks about a little more detail about what's going on.
And the meaning of the Queen's Gambit, the ship that they're on.
The Queen's Gambit, the Queenberry.
Yeah. Was it
It's the
that?
Queenberry. Yeah,
Queenberry? Ah, close enough. Queen
the
something.
Queen's Gambit. Yeah, show.
Yeah.
So then we have Julie Guile, who is the woman in the red dress,
Yep.
and then we have Cujo and Victory, and
Yep. Yep.
they're all running around, basically doing their best to survive. These group of people make it back to after some stumbling and such. They make it back to the room. They introduce themselves to each other. Victory finds it. She uses her detective skills and determines that Maurice knows a little bit more about what's going on than he's let on.
Yeah, he's basically saying it's a ghost ship that sank 10 years ago,
Queenberry,
and
not Queen Gambit.
yeah, the Queen's Gambit berry.
Sure.
Uh, Queen go Mary, and that they were, their lives were in danger. The only chance that they had to escape was to get to the transmission room
Mhm.
in another part of the ship and call for help.
Right.
And he's like, there was a tragedy here 10 years ago, when the thing sank and, everyone died.
Yeah.
And we got to get the hell out of here.
And I have it written down. He describes it as Bach Garden Evening. So that's for the box set. And it was an event, and that's what you were talking about. It was an event 10 years prior, before the Great War at the time, and
Yeah.
it was.
World War One.
Yep, World War One. But the Box Garden Evening was a situation very dark, very dark. This is the grim part. It took a turn here for sure. But they put, I think, what was it, 11 children,
Yep.
all different nationalities, don't speak the same language, they all different types of people into this ship, the Queen Berry, and didn't tell them what was going on, and basically put them in a situation sort of Lord of the Flies-esque, where it was survival of the fittest, and they started to become paranoid of each other and ended up like killing each other and trying to get out, only
Yeah.
to learn at the end of it all, when the survivors of that incident made it back to the communication room at that time, that it was all basically a messed up game by a fortune teller, which we learn was the fortune teller killed in episode one. So kind of tying this all together.
Right.
But it was a group of people who used them as they described them as hares.
Yeah. Just like the opening of the first episode.
Yeah, it's all kind of tying together. We're starting to piece together the bigger mystery here. Circle back to Marie telling the story. He's basically saying somebody's playing a trick on us. This is the same ship from 10 years ago, and we're in the same situation.
As the kids were.
Yeah, as the kids were. And then he kind of goes crazy.
Yeah, and he just all of a sudden loses his shit, finds a gun hidden in a room
Yep.
and just is gonna kill everybody because he's like, I'm gonna be the one survivor, you can all die. Then the lady in red shoots him. It's like,
That was that sums up Maurice's short stint on the show.
yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I'm a storyteller. Now I'm dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Julie kills Maurice, and then they basically say, okay, we've really got to get out of here. We've got to get to the communication room. They continue on their way, and then at some point during that short escape, Cujo and Victorique run into some trouble with some traps, and then they eventually run down the hallway and find Ned dead.
Yeah, Ned screams. They're like, "Oh, he has no pulse," and then they're like, "Oh, we better run some more." And
Yeah.
but then Ned comes back with an axe.
With a vengeance. And yeah, so
Yeah,
I'm gonna take a moment here this whole part of the series really confused me because
Yeah,
at this point, you still don't 100% know. I mean, you can make some guesses, like you said. If you notice that the lady in red wasn't there, and you something is going on. But at no point during the episode did they say that Ned was the protagonist, and all of a sudden he was. And
yeah,
I assume he was an
antagonist.
antagonist. Thank you. Words, as we always say. Oh, words.
Oh, you crazy word.
Yeah, never did they hint that he was the antagonist, except that maybe
Yeah.
I think he was one of the survivors from the original incident. Is that correct?
No, well, they didn't say anything about it. Like, it's when they reveal the whole story later, like after Ned's dead, they really get into like the details of like Ned was with the first group of kids and he pulled the exact same stunt of like pretending to be dead, but he was really the one that like started the killing going, so that way the kids were more sure to kill each
Oh,
other.
okay, okay. Yeah, so
Yeah.
well, one way or the other, we find out that Ned did kind of the same thing. He describes himself as the wolf. I thought that
Yeah.
they had shown him during Maurice's flashback, but
No.
I find it very strange. The reason I was a little confused, I find it very
Yeah.
strange that everyone on the ship kind of knows about the ship because they were there in the original one. They were the ones that put it on. But no
Right.
one seems suspicious at all. They were just like,
Yeah.
okay, we're gonna just go to this invite.
Well, and what was really weird to me, I mean, you're damn right. That was freaking weird. As soon as I walked up and saw Queen Berry, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this seems like a good boat to get on," where I murdered a bunch of people 10 years ago. But I was very confused by Ned all of a sudden coming out being an axe murderer.
Yeah,
Like there was no progression toward that whatsoever. It was just like he's acting pretty normal, like definitely stressed in this situation, but he didn't like crack and start freaking out like the Maurice guy did. He's just like, okay, let's get rid of these guns. Guns are bad. We don't want to hurt anybody. And then all of a sudden he pretends to be dead and then comes back with an
yeah.
axe. And just like, even after it, I'm still like, how did that even happen? Like, now knowing the full story, it's still like, why did he choose to go down that route, you know?
Yeah, especially since we learn that it was Julie that who sort of instigated this whole thing.
Right.
Then why was she so afraid and surprised by what was happening from Ned? I don't. I just
Right.
it's a little convoluted. I just don't understand what exactly was happening.
Yeah, I could understand like getting the old guys there to kill them, they're
Yeah,
they're old, they're easy pickings and whatnot, but here's Ned in his either 20s or 30s and obviously still in great shape, and it's like you're just setting him up to like kill everybody, like including yourself because you're putting yourself as like part of the crew so you can see everyone die individually.
yeah.
I don't know.
Very, very, very interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think maybe if we look past all that and kind of just say, okay, well, we accept the fact that he's lost his mind and he's trying to kill everyone.
Yeah, exactly. He's
Eventually,
like, I am the hound, I have to hunt.
100%. Yeah, he filled his role. But eventually we
Yeah.
get past all that and they kill Ned. So it goes from, oh no, Ned is dead. And they say, oh, never mind, there's Ned. And then, oh
Yeah.
damn, Ned's dead again.
Um,
So that
Yeah.
was Ned's storyline.
Well, first it was like, oh no, Ned's dead, and then it was like he's trying to kill us, and it's like, oh thank goodness, Ned's
Yeah,
dead.
that sums it up.
Yeah.
So they get to the communication room and they fight Ned and everyone feels like
Yeah.
okay we've escaped and they were able to call for help and they make it back to shore. The ship sinks. All of this is kind of
Yeah.
coming to fruition and when they make it back, the Inspector Greville right
Yeah. Is
is
like
waiting for
waiting
them.
to arrest the lady in red.
Yeah,
And then they go into like, oh, how'd you know? And they just go over the basics of it. And then Lady in Red goes into more details of like, this is how fucked up these old guys were that, use all those kids as, rabbit or hares to, get a fortune about which countries are going to survive World War One.
yeah, and this is all a revenge plot, as it turns out.
Right.
And then we find out that there is the murderer that they had in the earlier part of episode one that killed the fortune teller. It turns out that she
Yeah.
is also one of the survivor kids from the boat,
From
and
the
it all
10-year ago
yeah, so
thing.
it all kind of ties together where they're both kind of overlapping revenge plots, and everything comes together, and they get their revenge on everybody. And then of course they're arrested, and it kind of moves on from there.
And it's just now that we're saying that, like they had the it was the maid who killed the fortune teller in the first episode. So she was, plotting that out, like the whole reason why she got a job with the fortune teller, that we find out in episode 3, because now we know that the maid was working for her. Like obviously the maid got the job there to kill the fortune
Right,
teller.
exactly.
And then at the same time, you have Lady in Red, who put the whole, like, rebuilt the Queen's Gambit for the whole very, very elaborate revenge scheme to kill the fortune teller among all the other people that, like, made the running of the hares a thing. So this fortune teller sucks. She, there's like massive plots against her, and she didn't see that shit coming.
She didn't have enough hairs.
Yeah.
Well, it poses another question. So all the surviving
Yeah.
kids were given a bunch of money after the fact. Like,
Yep.
how much money do you think you would need to rebuild an entire ship from scratch and put this all together? I can't imagine the type of people who would put children in a place to kill each other would be that forthcoming with their money that they could afford to do
Yeah.
that. So I don't know.
It seems like they would just kill the rest of the kids when it was over.
Yeah,
Like they're like, "Oh, these 6 survived. Okay, kill them." That's
yeah.
all we needed them
Well,
for.
they did actually that part they did explain. So the fortune teller says,
Let them live.
yeah, fatten up the hares or something. I think that was the quote they used.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then I think
Okay.
that the giving of the money and everything was the implication that they would be taken care of. But to what extent, I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, they're traumatized, and that's where the revenge comes in and all that.
Right, right. Yeah, makes sense to me.
But yeah, that kind of wraps up 1 through 3. It took some interesting turns. I liked the mystery aspect. It was very confusing a lot of times. There were a lot of characters that you think were going to play a bigger impact, didn't, and the storyline kind of mixed in things that didn't really go along with the main storyline. But all in
Yeah.
all, it was interesting.
Well, and one thing I got to say was that they had a lot of stuff happen in 3 episodes.
Very true.
So it's like, I mean, just in the first episode, you introduce main characters, you solve one mystery, and then you also like get started on another mystery. Like there was a lot that they crammed into, especially episode 1. But then, in episode 2 and 3, it was just like going deeper into this mystery aboard the Queen Berry, and just, storyline upon storyline, stuff revealed, traps, and da 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 da. That was impressive. They really did a great job of a lot of content, over just like scenes of running endlessly behind repeating scenes, or
Yeah, and
you
and
know.
you know what? It was a good way for them to sort of piece together the outline for all their future episodes, which is kind of like, predictions for us, I guess, is they based everything on that was happening in the first 3 episodes was based off one of the urban legends that Cujo had read in the library. And
Yeah,
I imagine that's probably how they're going to piece together, like,
queue up.
yeah, so what's the next mystery? Oh, what's the next urban legend that we read about that we can figure out?
Yeah,
Right.
just randomly
Yeah,
read about, and then they're like, oh, hey, this is
a
happening.
100%, which gives them like an infinite amount of ideas, right? And you just piece together, okay, what's the next mystery?
And that's also cool for, the viewer. Like, here's this urban legend, and then, how do you think it's going to play into this next mystery that Victorique and Kazuya have to work out?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's good stuff. I really enjoyed the formatting. It was definitely a lot darker than the other episodes that we've done. So it was a good change of pace,
Yeah, yeah.
but it wasn't anything too crazy over the top.
No, no, it wasn't nothing new like a horror movie or anything like that. I mean, the bloodiest it got, besides the rabbits, was that guy getting shot in the head.
He deserved it, as we learned.
Oh, yeah, 1000%.
Yeah.
And not only did he deserve it because he was like partaking in murdering children, then it was also in self-defense because he was about to shoot them right there.
Lotto and
So,
Nordy are taking a hard stance. We don't appreciate children violence. There you go.
yeah. I know it's controversial.
Yeah. Controversial as it may seem, we don't approve. Okay, so
Yeah.
do you think you'll continue the series?
Yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah.
liked it?
It's interesting enough, and also there's still a lot of foreshadowing in the opening sequence because there's several characters in the opening sequence that we have not seen at all.
Okay.
It looks like there's like a big bad villain, that could be like Victorique's dad or something like that. I don't really know.
You know what? That brings up a good point. We learned this is a big spoiler for everybody, but we learned that the inspector, the reason that Victorique was letting him sort of take credit for all of the solving all the mysteries that she was solving, turns out that he's her half brother. So
Yeah,
yeah, so you could be right in that the intro, it could be her dad. They hint at the reason she's been trapped in the tower or basically had to live
yeah,
there and sheltered is because of him.
yeah,
Her
yeah,
brother, her half brother, the inspector takes, keeps her company, takes care of her, I guess, to some extent, but she's a student at the
yeah. It
school.
takes.
I don't know what's going on
She's the
exactly, but
she's the goose that lays the golden eggs for the
apparently,
brother.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's sort of bigger picture storyline, right? They're gonna introduce all of these different urban legends, and as they go through, they'll sprinkle in some main plot storyline. Anime rules. I think I mentioned the term anime rules every time we've had an episode. This is no different. You got to
Exactly.
sprinkle in the
Yeah.
storyline. You don't just give it all away. You got to sprinkle it in, and then bam, we got you.
Yeah, you kind of build to it. Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing I like about anime overall is just that, like, take Star Trek, however many episodes Star Trek had, like, each episode was like individual. Like, they had a problem, they dealt with the problem, and the episode was over. And meanwhile, in like, so many anime shows, you have episode by episode problem, but then you also had this overarching issue. Like Hunter x Hunter, the whole time Gon was like trying to find his dad, even though they went through like all these different arcs along the way.
Spoiler alert.
And
Is he looking
everything
for his
was like,
dad? Oh my
yeah,
God.
as
Giving away
explained
the
in the
whole,
first or so
geez, give away the
episodes.
whole storyline. Why don't you? We're clearly not doing an episode on Hunter x Hunter. No one's
Yeah.
ever heard of that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they did a really great job. I'll probably continue watching it as well. I definitely bookmarked it. Now
Yeah.
I will admit that I bookmarked a lot of the other shows that we've talked about, and I haven't gone to back to see any of them. Intentions are well placed though.
And one thing that I really like about this one is there's not a lot of mystery anime out there. This is like a Sherlock Holmes, heavily inspired by Sherlock
Right.
Holmes type of anime. There's lots of anime that is very mysterious, and I see anime that's just like fucking weird thrown into, oh, it's a mystery anime. It's like, no, it's just weird. Like Death Note, for example, you know what's going on. There's like, here's what the bad guy's doing,
Right.
here's what the good
Right.
guy's doing. So there's no mystery.
That's a good point.
It's
Yeah, they
yeah,
really do a good job of providing you the opportunity to try to solve it yourself before they give you the answer.
yeah, exactly, exactly. You're left wondering. Not to take away from Death Note, I do love
I've
that
never
show,
heard of
but
it.
I Dude, that will get
We
us canceled if you've really never watched Death Note. That'll
we're
get
just a
us
couple of guys just started an
canceled.
anime podcast. Never heard of Death Note, canceled. Hey, I have an idea for
uh,
episode 5. There's this
uh,
noun genesis Evangelon. Is that how you say Evangelon? I don't think anyone's ever talked about it before.
so you're talking about the 3-hour podcast we're gonna do.
Yeah, of course. That's bare minimum 3 hours,
Yeah, exactly.
24-hour special.
Oh shit.
Well, we both liked it. What would you
Yeah.
say is your rating on this one?
Uh, I think it's 50 out of 70 pieces of chaos coming together.
50 out of 70 pieces of chaos. You know what's funny is we didn't even talk about that reference, so that's deep. I'm going to give this 5 out of 11 survivors.
Perfect.
Very good. Well, cool. Well, I think that wraps up this episode.
Yeah, 4 episodes, baby.
Yeah, that's 4 down. Who knows how many more to go? As long as we continue to have fun, that's all that matters. As
Amen.
always, thank you all for joining us, listening in. We
Thank you
appreciate
all
it.
so much. Thank you.
Be sure to like, subscribe. We always appreciate that. Comment down below.
And suggestions.
The all-encompassing suggestions. Leave all that stuff down there. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
This has been Crunchy Roulette.
And as always, watch more anime.
Bye.
Bye.